Okay, let's see. We're going to talk a little bit more about initiative here. I think this opening is so famous that it requires no introduction. It's the Dragon Sicilian. And this bishop c4 line, I used to play it. I still play it sometimes, actually. But I really think that this dragon variation it's ambitious, but it's too ambitious. And I'm going to show you a little taste of why. So bishop c4 was a move that many people would say in the past was not good in the Sicilian. But in the 60s and 70s, some people found a good situation in which to play bishop c4. And it's mostly in the dragon that bishop c4 makes sense among all the Sicilians, although there are other situations. After bishop d7, which is just natural, dragon players can almost play the opening with their eyes closed, because until you reach a moment like this, it doesn't really matter what you do. So in this position, white plays bishop b3 as a rule. Anyone know why? What's wrong with not playing bishop b3? Like, let's say you play h4. What's the matter? What would black do? Knight takes d4 followed by, let's say I play queen takes d4. What do you do? Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, knight d5. I think I would just take it with my queen. Alright, so knight g4, says Chess Engine user. Yeah, that's right. They're going to lose a piece. So I'll just show it on the board. Knight g4. The queen is overworked. It has to defend this and this. So knight e3 is a wrap. Yeah, Obama, you might change. Your intuition was good, but you had to follow it up with good calculation. So bishop b3 is the move. It's not enough to know it, you need to know why you play it. So we're going to look at a position where black plays knight c4. So do you guys think that knight c4 is good for black or good for white? If you have the calculation of an 1100, maybe you should watch my calculation book videos. Lots of puzzles there. And some feedback for your thought process. Okay, any thoughts? Knight c4, good, bad? Chess Engine user, yes, that's true. In some lines they do go queen a5, but that's not the point here. I wanted to show just this position. Of course, there are lots of lines. So allowing my change to give me a question he can't recapture? I'm not sure. Can you give me a variation? We're talking just about the position right here. Should we like, is knight c4 a good move or no in this position? It's good? Why is it good, Chess Engine user? Because the Chess Engine says so? Yeah, I think this part's fairly common sense, but it's important to understand that the reason it's good is not just because they lose the light square bishop. There are other variations where white gives the light square bishop just the same way, and it actually is good for white. This is another example with initiative. If we do a little bit of accounting, we'll see that the bishop is going to make 3 moves in order to just completely disappear from this world. And in the end, a black piece stands on c4. That's not always good, like the rook could be vulnerable on c4. But in this case, it's certainly good. White wasted a lot of time to reach this position. Imagine if those 2 bishop moves were not spent. Like if the bishop was on f1 and then it took the knight on c4. In this position, white would already have the moves king b1 and g4 or h5 played. It would be such a better position than this one for white. The reason, alright, good question, why h4? h4 is just a thematic attacking move in the dragon. So I put it there just to illustrate the point here. Okay, my point is not to show the best moves. My point is just to show some instructive situations for exchanging. So first thing, knight c4 is a good exchange. And the reason that we're exchanging as white with the bishop from b3 is that it's even worse to lose the dark square bishop. If we play something like queen e2, threatening to take the knight, I think they should just take this bishop, and we will begin to feel the influence of this other bishop very soon. Whenever you have one bishop and your opponent doesn't have that same color bishop, then they're going to have more strength in that bishop if they can get it active. So anyway, coming back to the main thing. In this position, let's see what happens if white just goes ahead blindly with their plan. h5 is a reasonable move in many positions, and it's thematic to sacrifice the h-pawn and then play g4 to open up the h-file completely, with the idea of playing bishop h6. So what should black play here? In this example, I don't think rook takes h5 works that well, Chess Engine user. Although that is also thematic in these positions. You play bishop h6 and they'll probably just like play king h8 or something similar. I don't think it's really coming together. After bishop h6, actually queen a5 is a really strong move. If you insist on showing variations that are beside the point, I'll show you a variation beside the point. After knight h5, rook h5, pawn h5, queen h6, your threat is obviously queen g5, so we could probably stop it this way. You could also stop it with e6. You could also, I think king h8 is a pretty pathetic move, but I think it also stops the threat. Anyway. So this is the position we're talking about. What should black play? Yeah, after queen a5, the game still goes on, Chess Engine user. It does feel like tactics, right? Obviously, the exchange on h6 is pathetic. We shouldn't do that, because we just talked about how that dark square bishop can really get useful if it becomes active. And the rook on c4, it's menacing the knights and the things behind the knights. So we just need to get all of our pieces involved somehow, because we've already made one useful exchange as black. We got rid of their bishop that was pressuring f7. Could be a knight move, getting warmer, so make some candidate moves. Yeah, rook takes c3 is also part of what we're thinking about here. So if you play rook c3, what would white play? After rook takes d4, I guess queen takes d4 is forced for you guys. Alright, yeah, I think queen takes c3 is forced. And at that point, I think your compensation for the rook is dubious. I'm even wondering if I don't have to take the rook. I think it's better to just take the rook. Ethan Klein, welcome. How are you? It's good to see you. It's been like too long. Yeah, we're just doing a lesson here. Talking about exchanging pieces. I wouldn't get this position with white. I would have a much better position against the dragon. So I guess the real question is, how do we make this rook takes c3 move stronger? We need to insert some move before we make this favorable initiative grabbing exchange. How's it gonna happen? Ethan, you never call me anymore. I'm probably healthier than I've ever been, Ethan. Because I don't have to drive to work. At Chess Engine User, your variation's hilarious. After rook d4, queen d4, knight h5, I'll play queen g... actually, no. I'll play rook... maybe it's not that hilarious. It's kind of interesting. Ethan Klein, yeah, hopefully the world does open for World Open. But you know what? I might not even play. Rook d4, queen d4, knight h5. I don't think it should be good. Like, I'll just play bishop takes g7. Yeah. Of course. So far no one has hit on the move for black. Yeah, knight h5 is a pretty creative move, but after bishop g7, it's strategically favorable for white. Like often white will do a lot of work to trade this bishop. Knight g4, okay. Knight g4 might be a good move. I'm not confident. All right, so pawn takes g4. What's your follow-up? Actually, after knight g4, I think it's bishop g7 again. Bishop g7, guys. Knight g4 and bishop g7. No, bishop g4 is not good. It should be rook d4 if pawn takes g4. So what about bishop g7? Bishop h8. Outstanding move. That's not the kind of exchange stack that we want to play. The best move here is not rook c3. I think white's better. It's knight e4. You guys were so close, but you started drifting, I guess. After knight e4, if you play like knight takes e4, it's similar to what we were seeing with rook takes d4. This should be favorable for black. I think it's fairly transparent, just pawns up. And the reason here that they can't play bishop g7 is it's attacking the queen, right? Not good. So they have to play queen e3. And only now, rook c3. This position is winning for black, I think. It's just too good. We've already talked about this, I think. It looks pretty similar to what we've already seen. So after queen e3, rook c3. This is another interesting exchange. So even though we're losing material, which defies the common sense that most people have, we're getting a better position. For example, I think after queen takes e4, it's just not good. Like maybe rook back to c4 or something like that. I didn't check this out, honestly. I did check out pawn takes and then knight f6. And this position, maybe it's not better for black, maybe it's just equal because they can play for some tricks here. But I think that the exchange is very interesting because if white doesn't play precisely and get a draw somehow, we're going to play queen a5 and attack all the weaknesses, which were a consequence of the trade that we did. So the trade, even though it loses material, it's strategically useful. Alright, so some people are not convinced. They're saying that we should play rook c3 here. I'll just put on the engine if it convinces you. This position's, it says it's more than +2 for white after either bishop g7 or queen c3. They're both just winning for white.